the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here tonight. And I'm amazed because I've been seeing all television in this country. They are not as beautiful as this one.
Oh,
they're so clean.
Thank
and
you.
Every corner here is really well furnished, and it's really good. I remember last year, but when I visited the World TV, and things we are not as beautiful as here.
Oh, wow.
So I hope
we actually said to reinvent is
yes,
our brand.
Exactly.
So we are reinventing.
Please continue and do that.
Yes.
It will be wonderful. I thank you very much for inviting me tonight to talk about, you said about politics, though I'm not very good in politics these days. I'm more in development and other things. But anyway, we shall try.
But we subscribe to the narrative that says man is born a political animal. So by default, you're a politician.
Well, I don't know why we say men are born political animals. That's why Uganda has failed to develop. Every angle, everything they are talking about politics. And instead of talking about social development and other things. But well, we are going to talk because politics is taking a lead in this country. And we have to talk about it and see how best things can.
Definitely. When you talk about social development, and in my own knowledge, and the people that are watching, they understand. Uganda Uganda North American Association, UNAA.
Yes.
Now you have a very awesome image and idea of how a better country can look because of the United States.
Exactly.
Now, right away from there, give us an example of what you see in Uganda compared to the United States.
Yeah, I don't think we should compare Uganda to the United States because United States is far away from Uganda. It's only that Uganda has the best climate and at least everything better than that of USA. And I think Uganda would be very far away in agriculture and other things. But unfortunately, the country which doesn't have better climate and everything, they are doing better than Uganda, which is really unfortunate.
Allow me to take some steps back. In the 1776, when the Americans decided to have their independence from England, they were colonized.
Yes.
We were colonized as well.
Yeah.
And on 9th of October 1962, we were granted independence.
Exactly.
What is keeping us behind to be described as the third world country?
I think we are kept behind the way how we are handling our country, our development, and politics. We think is the most fertile thing which is in this country, rather than thinking about other things. So if we are moving the way how we are doing things now, I don't think the country will really rise up, though, because we are talking about, that is 1960 something, and we are looking at things how are being done now. I think somehow they would be improving if people were sincere of what they are doing, because this country is surrounded with corruption, which is really dragging us behind instead of going forward. People are not friendly to others. That one also is a major problem. People are not trusting themselves so that they can sit together and develop the country. When you hear about Ugandans, how they talk about their country, they don't talk good things about their country. All the time they talk about in negativity. So, which I think we Ugandans, we need to love our country so that things can work better.
Well, Mr. Seninde, to me as an ordinary Ugandan, I will look at you as a senior citizen.
Yes.
And when you talk about corruption, it is something that has been happening when you are seeing everything happening. I will be forced to think that probably you didn't play your part.
No, corruption is everywhere, even in other countries.
Even in the US?
Even before the independence of this country. But the way how corruption was being moving on. It was not like these days where a person can be given 10 billion to go and work on the road and only use 1 billion and the rest disappear. So, and nobody cares. That's the only problem we have next. We need to care. We need to mind. And we need to see that if somebody advises, we listen so that we can find a way how we can bring our country to the line of development. Yeah.
Probably now we need the likes of some good dictators, because I've been able to hear a number of Ugandans who say, in the days of Idi Amin Dada, no way you would embezzle funds of citizens. It can't happen. Others will give us about how our friends in Rwanda with Paul Kagame does not give tolerance to corrupt officials. And others will tell us about how John Pombe Magufuli in Tanzania is doing an amazing job with an iron hand. So should it be the best way to go?
I think in Rwanda, as you were saying, this Kagame, which other country have you said? And
Tanzania.
Maybe Tanzania, Magufuli and other people. It's only that these people are strict about their media. They don't want to say out what is being done on the ground. But if you go in those countries and see how things are moving, even the citizens are crying. So here, there's a lot of liberty. Anybody can talk about anything. And talking about anything, so Uganda has become to be the land of corruption. And that is very dangerous. Uganda cannot move if we go on this line of corruption. However, at least there is a way the government can come out to maybe arrest and those people who are doing corruption. But I think those people who are being arrested, those are the people who have not taken the big amount of money in the country. The people who are really, the big fishes are not yet done what? Reached on. So there's a lot of things we need to look at. If we go back on the drawing table and we talk about corruption and other things, schools are not moving well. You find other things are not moving well. And when you say so, the government doesn't want to hear. But if we are to talk about corruption, let everybody talk about it and then we find an improvement. But if I say something which is affecting this country for not developing and say that I'm not supporting the government, that's the only problem we have here.
The President of the Republic of Uganda,
not the President,
Dr. Museveni, recently
yes,
appointed Edith Nakalema to lead a commission that is going to fight corruption. Where do you see her? Should we expect the big fish are not going to be handled or touched?
No, I wouldn't think so that Nakalema can do something with this corruption of this country.
Oh.
I don't think so, because I was working with the government myself for over 24 years plus. I was working with the Minister of Housing, Minister of Fisheries, in Housing, in the Minister of Health. Most of these people whom I was working with, when I was coming out to say the truth, this should be done like this, then I was being looked at as somebody who is not supporting the people I'm working with. I reached to an extent of resigning from the government before my what? My age of retirement because of such things. So I think we really need to be very, 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 very touching the way how things are being approached. Yeah. There's something we need to improve.
The 32 years of the regime, the NRM regime, should we say the war against corruption has failed?
Not totally, because they have reached a certain extent. But reaching that certain extent, the only problem we have in this country is that the all power, people who are in the position of fighting the corruption, let's say you have been appointed to be the gentleman who is fighting corruption, you are the person who can also judge. I don't know whether you are finding me, you get me correct. Somebody who is corrupt is the person who is in charge to see the corrupt people. So there you find a very big problem of putting things right.
So in Uganda they would say, basi ni somubi okwata babbi.
But in somubi okwata omubi, what they would say, a proper way of saying it in Uganda, I don't know. Say, osindise omuntu agende akwata ababbi ate nga ye mubbi asinga ate nga akolagana n'abaana ababbi.
So,
yeah, I know that. Even in research, I mean, in many things, of course, okwata omubbi onakozesa mubbi, but that one shouldn't be warranting people to do what? To steal. There's something we need to go back on the table and talk about corruption. And when you find people who are talking about corruption, they are the most corrupt people. People who are arresting the corrupt people, they are the most corrupt people. So we really need to find the way how we can really handle things so that we can improve our country. Otherwise, I'm worried.
Well, Mr. Seninde, while appearing before a certain local media house, a radio station, former FDC, Forum for Democratic Change President, retired Dr. Kizza,
yes,
says that Uganda is in captivity. And they've been in captivity since the days of colonization, that we came into a union that many Ugandans never agreed upon, and a lot of wrong things that are going bad or in a bad way. It is not because of the leaders that we have, but because of the foundation of everything. He says that probably we need a fundamental change that will call upon all stakeholders to discuss about which country they need. He says, right away from the 1962, up to date, we are changing powers or regimes, but the same problems that were faced by Idi Amin Dada, the likes of Bob Bote, that are the same things that are faced by Ugandans, even up to date. Are we in captivity?
I wouldn't think so, because we are not in captivity, because we are in a situation where we can say what we feel something should be done. What is needed is people to hear what is being talked about. Was it on Tuesday, on Monday, where the burial of one of the very strong NRM supporter at Honorable Njoba's place. Dr. Kizza talked some points. I cannot say he talked rubbish, but he talked some points, which he knows very well. And he said he's a great friend of President Yoweri Museveni. If he's a great friend of President Yoweri Museveni, why doesn't he sit with him? Why is it if they are being called to sit down and discuss the country issues, he doesn't go and they sit down and solve problems? People are crying everywhere. So we need really to sit down and improve the way how things are being done in this country. You find people like us, people they say we support the government. Surely we are supporting the government. But if you are supporting, or if you are my son and I tell you something and you don't do it right, if we are supporting the government, let us advise the government and then the government hears. That one gives a lot of say to these opposition people. Because whatever NRM or the people in the government does something wrong, then that means the people in the opposition, what they are telling us. I could be in a position
of saying something, but then the person I'm talking to is not ready to listen.
Who?
In this, let us take...
that's what I'm saying. If I am your dad and I tell you that, please, let us do things like this, and you don't want to hear, then it puts me in a very wrong position. People hate me as well as they hate you as my dad. You need to listen what we are being advised so that we can put... Let us sit together. Let us not say that we have enemies. So and so is our enemy. So and so. Let us come together and sit down and see how we can solve the problem of this country. Other than everybody crying, or other than, even if now the government does something good, people, they don't see it as a good thing. They are only saying, no, they are not doing, because there is something wrong which we need to rectify.
All right, there's a lot of things that we can talk about the government of Uganda, but you and I, as I always tell you, that we own a lot of power in our hands to be able to change the future of this nation. And it is about you understanding, or Ugandans understanding what should be done. We still have Mr. Kizza Zephania Seninde Chikoba, happens to be the Ugandan National American Association Special Envoy to Uganda. And we told you we are going to be joined up by Medard Lubega Seggona, who happens to be the Member of Parliament for Busiro East. We are taking a short commercial break. When we return, the People's Agenda will have to continue, and we are going to be having Mr. Seggona joining us.
Bingi bibela omunsi, but you cannot be everywhere. That's why tuwaddeyo kutuusaako all the latest entertainment news. This source, Monday to Friday, sawa satu kunya ez'okumakya tasubwa.
Mariana, a woman who lives a life surrounded by beauty and glamour, will fight until the end with all honesty to get what she wants.
I like your shirt. It's very pretty. Where did you buy it?
I just made it.
And that will prove her strength to accomplish her dream of becoming a fashion designer.
I want you to work here.
On the other hand, Scarlett, Mariana's younger sister, is an ambitious woman.
When men make the decision to open their wallets, a woman can't give them time to think.
Why do you say such ugly things, Scarlett?
Because I'm your evil sister.
Who, being poor, will have to pretend to be someone she's not.
My daddy owns many properties. He has farms, factories.
To fit in this world of appearances and money and reach her dream.
Scarlett is going to be on the runway tomorrow, period.
Two sisters will have to survive in the fashion world.
What a pretty cardigan.
Thank you.
Well, I suppose it's good for a talented amateur.
A world where they will meet a man that will change their destiny. Roberto White, a successful businessman, a millionaire, but a disaster in matters of the heart.
We truly continue to appreciate you so much for keeping your eyes on Record TV. It is still the People's Agenda show that will always be on your screen, or that has been on your screen every Wednesday, 10 to 11 p.m. And my name is Mordecai Muriisa Martin Junior. We are discussing a number of things, mostly the political climate or the arena of politics in the beautiful country called 256 or Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. We understand, or you've been able to know about a number of things that we've discussed in the first segment with Mr. Kizza Seninde, who happens to be the UNAA special envoy to Uganda. And now, just like we told you, Mr. Medard Lubega Seggona has joined us. Welcome on the show.
Hello, thank you very much, and good evening, viewers out there. Good evening to my brother.
Good evening.
Zephaniah.
Thank you.
Well, in the first segment, we tried to look at the image of Uganda in as far as the politics of this country is concerned. And Mr. Zephaniah agreed with me that the political image that has been portrayed outside Uganda is a bit scary. And having the examples of what happened the last year, mostly coming from the opposition, what is your take on this?
Well, thank you very much. I apologize to the viewers and to you all for being late. I was caught up in a meeting along Entebbe Road, so I had to rev the jam and come over because I had fixed this appointment. That said, I want to thank my brother for laboring to explain. It's a difficult situation for him, as I saw him indeed lamenting, that those of them who support government and are put in a more difficult or precarious situation of explaining the actions of government. I think just today there was a debate in the British House of Commons about the state of human rights in Uganda. And one thing that came out unanimously was that Uganda's human rights record is worrying. And there's even a threat of withholding donor support from not only the UK, but Europe, because you remember the first resolution came from the European Union Parliament. Of course, the most disturbing thing about our image is that we have people who are accomplices with the evil that the government continues to mete out onto Ugandans. You know, when you support a government, when you support a political party, when you support a policy, you support the whole package. So you cannot say, for me, I support the economic bit of the NRM and not the human rights bit. It is a whole package. It is not severable. So yes, like any other Ugandan, it's worrying that we have that kind of image. When you talk about Uganda, people outside the borders, people understand abuse of human rights. People understand corruption. People understand nepotism. People understand longevity of the president in power. They understand the military on the street beating up people and the police, and so on and so forth. Yes, so that is worrying, if that was your question.
Well, let's comment about corruption specifically, because we tackled it in the first segment. As the war against corruption a failed one, because now I talked about, actually agreed that the new commission of Edith Nakalema, he doesn't think that it's going to do anything. And our question, or my question was, as an ordinary Ugandan, so what is the future of the nation if we accept that, if he says that he doesn't think the commission is going to do something? So have we failed on corruption?
First, the institution of that commission itself was corrupt. Corrupt in a sense that we have got the institutional framework, the constitutional framework in this country. We've got agencies that are supposed to curb or fight corruption alongside the rest of us, Ugandans. You've got the IGG, you've got the police, you've got the courts, etc. They're all in place. If they have not done their work, you, the chief executive, do your work. If the police, for example, is not fighting corruption, and they are duty-bound to fight corruption, and you are the appointing authority, what do you do? the most corrupt thing that you can do is to abuse institutions. So if there is anything that the president has done to perpetuate corruption in this country, he's institutionalizing himself, okay, and individualizing institutions. If you appointed the IGG and the IGG is not doing her work, then what do you do? But you see, the IGG came out and defended herself. He said, you know, everybody we try to get runs to State House. So State House has become a clearinghouse for conmen. So you would not blame the IGG. Go to the police. How much do we facilitate the intelligence arm of the police to fight corruption? Because corruption is a sophisticated crime. You must be looking at the institutions through the sophisticated means of fighting the evil. So how much of the police budget or Internal Affairs Ministry budget is allocated to CID, for example? Peanuts. You know, you do not give these people the money they need. You commit huge sums of money in the police to what you call operations, which are supposed to be political operations. Buy tear gas, okay? In the recent past, we would hear the police is talking about patronizing people, you know, buying people to support the NRM. That's not the way you fight corruption. Go to courts of law. How much do you facilitate them, both financially and institutionally? Okay? There is a simple clause in the Land Act that before you conclude a land case, visit the locus. But there is no single budget, no single coin allocated to visiting locus. Do you know what happens? The litigants must transport the court to the scene, to the locus and go. Okay? What happens to a person who is not able to contribute that money? And here is Zephaniah Kizza Seninde, who has the money to facilitate the movement of court to the locus and go. Go to the other institutions, go to the presidency. Let me tell you, there is nothing more corrupt than appointing your family into government. So, if you have a president, a man sitting in cabinet with his wife, and they decide the destiny and affairs of the country, and the brother is a presidential advisor, the son is a presidential advisor, the daughter is in State House controlling funds, how are you telling me, how do you convince me that you're fighting corruption? And these people, I'm glad he conceded, have not done their work. For me, when I mentioned it, Mr. Museveni will say, after all, that one wants power. He wants to grab power from me, so he's trying to remove the tools I'm supposed to use to stay in power. So there is no way you're going to fight corruption with the old system. There is no way you're going to change an old system with the old man. You cannot talk about the past taking us into the future.
Well, Mr. Seninde, coming now to you.
Yes.
Just before, if he will indulge me, you talked about my sister Edith Nakalema, Major or something of the kind. The first assignment she undertook was to go and invade the government office, the regional land office in Manchester. Is that the way you fight corruption? I thought there is a more sophisticated way of doing things. You go, cordon off a place, arrest everybody you find there, including people that have gone for their titles. Okay? This is a government office. Go, collect everything you find on table, disappear with it. I think that is the most crude way of fighting corruption. How do you investigate? First establish the crime through intelligence. But these people picked up civil servants, locked them up, started looking for offenses. They failed to get offenses, then they had to transfer them. You know, it's a rudimentary way of fighting. Well, but maybe it is for politics. You know, whenever we are approaching an election, Mr. Museveni finds a way of doing politics. In the previous elections, you remember when he instituted the land committees, you know, of my sister, the Honorable Rose Seninde, and Honorable Nantaba, and the group, said, oh, I'm now fighting evictions on Bibanja. In the other election, towards 2011, what he did was to bring a Land Amendment Act, saying, now, and that one has perpetrated more. So let me tell you, if our minds are corrupt, if our actions are corrupt, and the corrupt actions are coming from the top, forget about fighting this war. Whether it is a failed one or not, I think I will say it is not a failed one. The rest of us bona fide Ugandans must continue to play our role, advising the president, assuming he has the time to sit on TV and watch, okay? He should take a lesson. He doesn't have so many years to live. So it serves him well to leave a legacy.
Well, now getting to you, Mr. Seninde, again.
Yes.
Mr. Seggona talked about President Museveni individualizing the institutions and then institutionalizing himself. Now the biggest question, one of the worst things that can never happen to a government is institution failure or the dying of the institution. Do you accept that all our institutions have failed or died?
Well, I would say so, but I don't think all of them they have. When we say President Museveni is appointing his family, that one might be true. But even in the past, people would think about themselves, about their people, which is not there today. If you find somebody, let's say the vice president is there, he's not appointing anybody from the family, he's not appointing anybody from everywhere, or from the relative, or from the friends, then people say, that man is helping us what? What does Honorable Seninde help us? Has anybody talked to anybody to be enrolled in government or enrolled in any company or something like that? That one is human to a person. But if it is beyond, then it becomes unexpected. So what I think, we need to go back on the drawing table, as I said, and then we put everything right. I don't know whether you are getting me.
Yes, I'm getting
yes.
Well, let me get to Mr. Seggona. According to Mr. Seninde, commenting about nepotism in the country, he says it has been happening. We shouldn't blame Mr. Museveni. And then probably we can cross to the US. Recently, the President Trump had his people, and he's serving with some of his people in the government. So it is not new.
And does that make it right?
It doesn't, but then it's...
You see, I'm surprised that you people are not embarrassed that you are led by a president who sits in his cabinet. And then they said the policy from the Ministry of Education, that it is brought by his wife, and you're not embarrassed. You see, let me say this, and with immense respect to the president, I owe him a lot of respect, and I give it to him, okay? And it is on that account that I come out viciously to attack when he does wrong. And people don't advise him. And you people mislead him by saying, no, Trump has done it. Does that make it good?
No.
Does that make it right? It is absolutely not right. Because, I mean, I do not want to delve into, let me ask him about the credentials of the people he's appointing.
What if they are qualified for the job? Even
then, it is about the impressions. Because the moment you do it, the vice president will do it, the minister, Honorable Seninde, will do it. The only reason these people have not done it, one, is probably because they are different from their president. But the most outstanding one is because he has not given them the power. They don't have the powers. Let me tell you, apart from President Museveni, no one else in his cabinet has the powers. Everything they do, they need to consult, every little thing. I have dealt with institutions in this country. You deal with the police, you deal with the army. The chief executive of the institution needs to consult. How will the president look at this? Because he does not respect institutions. Everybody is timid. Everybody is worried about what will the president think. No, you go to the police, you say, is it possible to have a police bond? They say, man, this is a presidential suspect. You know, if you can have a presidential suspect at a police station, then where are the institutions? My brother, let me give you these other examples. We spent 2 years in this country without a chief justice. At some point, you have a country that does not have a chief justice, that does not have a deputy chief justice. The matter I'm talking about has been litigated upon. Okay? And you know, the president says, don't push me. I cannot be pushed. Why? Because it is about him. Yes, you cannot be pushed as an individual. That is in you. How about the institutions of the government? The institutions of government can be pushed because there is a constitution. Okay? So the point we're talking about, yes, he's right saying, let's go back to the drawing board. With who? With Joel Kaguta Museveni. He has demonstrated to you clearly. Don't tell me. I mean, he embarrassed us recently when we were talking about national dialogue. This is what we were talking about. He was asking, what is there to dialogue about? He's saying, man, I am looking at other bigger things, not this dialogue of yours. So that's the man you're telling me to go with, back to the drawing board, and draw what with him? He has failed to draw anything for the last 33 years in fighting corruption. Instead, his actions have perpetuated corruption.
Mr. Seninde, these people think they cannot be on the same table with Mr.
We do not think so. He said so.
He's saying so.
Yes, he's in Exodus. We are very far in Revelations.
No, I think if it is not, I don't, one thing when he said, there's nobody in the government who can take decision, who can have power to decide something. I think people who are in the position, they are failing to take decision of what they are supposed to do. And that one goes back to President Yoweri Museveni. I want to request these guys who are in the government to start taking decision and see what is coming out of what they are deciding.
Mr. Seggona says they cannot take decisions.
Why not? Why? If they're in the position, if they cannot, then let them leave the chairs where they are sitting. If you're in the office, you cannot take a decision. Then why? What is the use of you being there?
They're not failing, but probably because of the repercussions.
But what sort of repercussions?
You see, let me give you an example, if he permits. A man called Semata was OC station, Natete police station. A decision of court came. It had been cleared by his superiors at police headquarters. It had been cleared at the regional level. It had been cleared by his DPC. And the instructions to him were, go and witness execution. He sent policemen to witness execution.
Someone is joining. Hello.
Hello?
Yes, hello. We are getting you.
Hello?
We are getting you, sir.
Hello?
We are getting you, please.
Yes,
sir.
Umwaka Medard Seggona mundabire nnyo mugamba atoka kunamba y'essimu ye.
Akuwulira.
Watu balonzi be. Naye yebala okuweza n'okuteesa abadde muteesa mulungi nnyo n'okwoleza banne bonna abadde bagudde ku bizibu tukabaza Medard Seggona. Ekirala. Mbadde njagala mpere ku magezi kubanga ndaba abasajja bonna bagenda kuleeta omululu. Ffe tuli ku Bobi people power. Naye nga ndaba Besigye naye ayagala. Kibabeere kabadi yako omusajja n'atuwangula ate nga twandibadde tuleeta omu Bobi Wine wa people power. Era gwe oli ku ludda ki Medard Seggona.
Now people are dragging us into another debate about people power. Oli ku ludda ki? Bobi Wine.
No, we will come up with a candidate, definitely. And he shouldn't be worried about which candidate. Actually, to me, it would be a bigger crisis if we did not have a candidate. It becomes a very easy job if we have many candidates. The options are now on table for us to decide who. I'm also interested, just in case my brother Kenya doesn't know, I'm also interested, but we will come up with the best candidate, acceptable to the people of Uganda. And whether Dr. Besigye, whether Honorable Kyagulanyi, Bobi Wine, we will choose the best candidate. Now, the only solace I find is that we receive views from the people.
Yes, another one. Hello. Hello. Well, some people think, or they say, that election is just a template. Do you subscribe?
Well, they say and they think. I don't think so. I think it is still possible for me to use elections as a platform to champion change in this country. Now, those that have those other options, I have no problem with them. I do not begrudge them. My prayer is change.
Hello?
My option is election.
17.
Kakati kubidde wanene mukazi.
Ani ono?
Kubidde ppasi.
Oli wansi mukama wange.
Okuteesa kwange kuli nzino. Kulegera okobba ebyebyazwamu kuleeteddeko. Eno Uganda kuli ku mulembe gw'abafu. Olulezi kutuuleza oyo omukadde bwe yatumalira boye ebiramu yali tenne kyake kaamujyamu.
Tolikise bulungi mukulu. Well, we have a few minutes to the closure of the show, but then now, Mr. Seninde, has Uganda been having free and fair elections?
I would hope so. I think to a high degree it does. But we need to improve if there is a complaint and look into that and see how.
Definitely there have been complaints for a number of times.
But complaints are everywhere. Even electing a monitor in a school, there is complaint. Electing the president, always complaints are there. Yeah.
Do you concur with him?
Obviously not, because it's all over. I mean, there's judicial pronouncement on all the elections we've had and those that have been tested in the Supreme Court of the land. The Supreme Court has unanimously at all times concluded that the elections have not been free and fair, and that the factors affecting free and fair elections have been the same. The army deployment, abuse of institutions of state, same things. But let me say this, and people normally ask us, and I think rather sarcastically, if you're saying they are not free and fair, how come you won? Yes, we break chains. We break chains. In the first place, we should not have those chains. I mean, I have a friend of mine who was standing as a councillor at the local council elections in London. And you know, after voting, the man went and started drinking. So at some point, we're asking, man, we are seeing you are busy tweeting, you are drinking. Who is going to protect your vote? He said, my friend, protecting my vote is not my duty. That is the duty of government, okay? I am not supposed to be there, okay? He's been in elections. Would you attempt to do that? His wife has been a member of parliament. This is, I think, her 4th term, Rose. Can you attempt to do that? But here, actually, the biggest expenditure in any campaign is on that last day. Vote protection. You have walked around, you have protected, got the vote, you have got to protect. The army is there, and the police, the RDCs, etc., are there to rig for a particular individual. So they have not been free and fair elections. We participate because we would be blamed for not trying. I would rather try and fail than failing to try. I would be very, very stupid in failing to try.
Oh, well now, what is your take on this? The image, you say the image of Uganda, in as far as the politicking in the country has been, mostly in the 2018.
Much as I would request the government to improve on whatever is being improved, I would as well request the parliament to not sanction some of these people, like if we say the electoral commissioner, the person is being sanctioned by the parliament. Some of these people, you see that they are friendly to the government and they are being nominated in those positions to rig the election. Let the parliament help us not to do so. I don't know whether that one can be
I agree with my brother.
Yes.
Yes, as parliament we are supposed, because we are supposed to provide checks and balances. And we are not checking anything else. We are actually established to check the excesses of a dictatorial state, to ensure that there is democracy, that there is transparency in all processes, and therefore our work is to be a watchdog of, say, the executive. And you know, in Uganda, when you talk about the executive, you do not mean so many people, you mean one person, the president. So I agree to take the challenge. Yes, I will preach the gospel, starting with where? He will start from his house.
Now,
before I close, I wanted to advise the government Of course, I will advise the President Museveni. He should watch his agents. I can give him an example where the Minister of Sudan, where he has been arrested and being thrown on the pickup, something like that. These are people who are supporting the government. How can you arrest the minister? Are we improving the tourism or we are destroying tourism? Many things are being handled by wrong agents.
On tourism, I will get back to Mr. Seggona.
Okay.
They have told us, we've seen the government say that the image that you portrayed away from Uganda is scaring tourists.
Which image is that? By beating ourselves in Parliament, we are the soldiers who beat ourselves.
That's what...
Who is your Minister for Foreign Affairs? Can he travel to the US? You see, don't blame us for what you do. Ugandans have a tendency of looking for the weak ones and blame them. I have been beaten, I have been humiliated, I have been dehumanized. Then you blame me. Why did you get yourself embarrassed? You know, I am not the criminal that beat me. I am not the criminal that mishandled me. You're talking about the brutal arrest of the minister of Sudan. You see, nobody is supposed to be dehumanized in the first place. Police and the army beat up a journalist for covering their activity. The man is clearly marked press with the camera. They beat him. He kneels down, he surrenders, they continue beating him. And you have a president who comes up to say, well, they suspected him to be a camera thief. I mean, if you have a president that behaves so casual in the face of threats to the image of his government, don't blame anyone. The tourism of this country has been let down by the government itself. First, you appoint the wrong people. 2, you do the wrong things. 3, you do not invest money there because you invest in personal survival. You have no one to blame. This he says he's advising the president. And at the beginning, he considered that the person they're advising is inadvisable. The best thing is to do one little job for this country. It is just one dignified job we can do for posterity. Remove the man. Stop rigging for him. But that's the only thing you can do to improve this country.
Well, the debate or conversation can be a little bit more longer than this. I would like to give you only 1 minute, and Mr. Seggona 1 minute, for your last remark. We just sure that probably another time we shall have you more than this.
I thank you very much for having invited me in such a very nice studio, which is, even look at the standard of CNN, because when I visited CNN, it was as clean as this. However, I want to advise my government to hear the advices of the people who are concerned, because those who are advising now cannot advise anymore, so that we can push on.
Thank you so much, Mr. Seggona.
Uganda is big enough for all of us. We can fit in this country, the young and the old. 2, Uganda belongs to all of us. Nobody should monopolize institutions of government. They should be ours because we fund them jointly. 3, Disrael wrote and said, the art of being a good guest is knowing when to leave. My brother Joel, the president, needs to understand one thing. We have the capacity to protect him the same way he has protected us. We have the capacity to feed him. We have the capacity to care for him as an old man. We will not kill him. We will not torture him. We will not disorganize his family life. We will actually enhance his welfare. Let him quit. Let him allow Uganda a transition, a peaceful transition. Let him give me a chance to see a transfer of power. Okay? Young people like you have seen one president. You have seen one corrupt state. You have seen one dusty city. Okay? You need a break from that. And I also want him to enjoy the benefit of seeing a good government. Thank you, and may God bless you all.
Thank you so much. My name is Mordecai Muriisa Martin Junior. Once again, I appreciate you so much for keeping your eyes on Record TV. We have a lot of things that are coming your way. As we always say, 2019 is going to be more than big and better. As people's agenda, we promise you a lot of things that are coming. As we always say, Reinvent is our brand. I cannot really use any word to describe how enthusiastic I feel about you being part of the show. But we cannot spend here a full night, but leave to have other people be part of the programming of Record TV. My name is Mordecai Muriisa Martin Junior. I wish you a blessed night.